Needless virtue signals. The world is swamped with it. Let's start with Nut Zero. Before it was electric ambulances, which is an absolutely ludicrous proposition, and now it's electric battlefield vehicles. Ridiculous. The government has pledged to put net zero goals at the heart of its defence industrial strategy, which was launched alongside Sir Keir Starmer's dismal reset speech this week. It said the strategy would support net zero's regional growth and economic security and resilience. And it went on to say new and emerging technologies can support decarbonisation effects and improve battlefield capability, reducing the supply chain vulnerability of liquid fuel and also reducing the heat signature and noises of vehicles on the battlefield. Oh, well, I've heard it all. All the enemy has to do is wait till your batteries run out. It's laughable if it wasn't so dangerous. It would leave our troops in dire straits on the battlefield. I'm all for protecting our environment so that we can have a healthy planet to live and grow on. But I'm also for protecting the nation from despots like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. And our troops doing their duty serving this country shouldn't be a pawn in the net zero madness when they're trying to keep our spirits safe. I mean, there is no place for virtue signalling on the battlefield. Worse still, as we all know, you can't really put out the battery fire. So how's that going to work on the battlefield? And more virtue signalling on the football pitch as well, with rainbow armbands. I mean, why can't we just focus on the sport itself and winning, not all those other side issues that distract from the mission? But at least in football, it's not a life or death situation. Colonel Richard Kemp, former commander of the British forces in Afghanistan, said, "It is hard enough to keep the current vehicles supplied with fuel. That is a massive operation on its own. I just can't see how it would possibly work with EVs. Fighting battles is an extremely difficult activity. To make it unnecessarily even more difficult seems to be a crazy endeavour. I would be pretty confident that it is just not at all a starter in terms of maintaining the levels of battleground capability that we have now." It's just absurd, isn't it? EV combat vehicles. I mean, where are the chargers going to be? Utter lunacy. We are fast becoming a global laughingstock. I mean, as if you could put a charger on the battlefield. I mean, come on. Why are they putting money into this?
Using the internet without a VPN is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. We want to help protect you. This video's sponsor, Private Internet Access, is the VPN to help keep you safe. Now, you might be asking, what is a VPN? Well, a virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. This way, it shields your digital life from the eyes of those that are looking to exploit your private information. Whenever you connect to the internet on a public Wi-Fi network, such as at airports, coffee shops, friends' houses, or even in your own home, your data is at risk of being stolen. Hackers that are connected to the same Wi-Fi network have the ability to steal your personal data with ease. T-Mobile reached a settlement this year with the US Federal Communications Commission after they suffered data breaches in 2021, 22, and 23. In 2023 alone, over 37 million customers' data was exposed. And it's not just hackers to be concerned about. Information can be censored. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news content that you love. Private Internet Access is available for all platforms: Windows, macOS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one Private Internet Access subscription to protect an unlimited number of devices at the same time. Plus, we've got a huge GBNews discount. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get 83% off PIA. That is under £2 a month, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free. There's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So head to piavpn.com/ /GBNews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
So joining me now, political commentator Nishi Hodgson. Nikki, it's because it's spelled so wonderfully.
I know,
got a beautiful
it's such
spelling.
a silly spelling.
No, it's great. It's unique. So, Nikki, what do you think about these virtue signals that we seem to be putting forward for everything, football, and now, obviously, the battlefield with electric vehicles? To me, makes no utter sense at all. I mean, does it make sense to you?
Well, look, there are some very reasonable and valid reasons for caring about LGBTQ rights in football, especially when we consider that 67 countries in the world still think that homosexuality should be punished either by death or imprisonment. And obviously our footballers play all around the globe. And then when it comes to the army, obviously net zero is a real threat. By 2050. We are on course for some major global catastrophes, which include food shortages, global migrants coming from many countries that will be submerged by water or too much heat to the UK or anywhere else in Europe, and also the death of a million species, wiping out of a million species. And that's going to change our habitats, our oceans, our ecosystems.
But what about war? Listen, before we do all that, we'll probably blow ourselves up. So what about war? We need to be able to protect ourselves, even if, yes, with all these other laudable things that we should be doing. The number one priority is obviously to stay alive on the planet, but to keep the country going. Otherwise, if there's no planet, obviously there's nothing, but ultimately we need to be alive on it.
Well, I mean, I just think it's absolute rubbish, actually, what's come out of Keir Starmer's government about the vehicle, the EV, tanks, etc. Because just as you pointed out, Nana, where are the PowerPoints? if you're in a desert or, where are you going to charge these up? Okay, they say they'll be quieter. That could be useful, I suppose, for creeping up on other people. But let's be real about this. I mean, I do think that is particular virtue signalling, because what Keir Starmer is trying to do is say, oh, look, we're doing great for the planet, but we'll appease the right by saying we're going to do it around the military, which we really believe in and really want to kind of keep strong and modern. There's nothing environmental about warfare. Yeah. It is catastrophic for people, for planet. It just can't be another way. So why on earth he's decided to waste money, time and media exposure on this is beyond me.
Well, you'd be better off if you're in the desert with solar panels, if anything. I mean, I don't think that's a good idea. But to think that you're going to do electric, I just find it absolutely absurd. Now, you're supposed to be defending this. Obviously, you can't.
Well, no, I mean, look, no. I obviously defend the right to net zero. I believe passionately in the appeal to try and reach net zero by 2050. And let's be real, we're at about 2.9% of reduction in emissions, and we need to get to 48% by 2050. We are woefully behind. And as I say, there are going to be some very real world consequences that are going to happen in our lifetimes. Maybe you're older and you won't be around to see it, but your children and your grandchildren will.
Are you saying me? Maybe I'll be older.
I'm counting me, Nana. I don't know if I'm going to make it that far at this rate.
Well, the thing is, this is the point. This net zero nonsense, which we don't even know if carbon seriously is the enemy. And the fact that we've taken down all the trees, which are the planet's natural way of cooling itself, and then we're coming up with these nonsense ideas that will end up stripping the earth of these plants. I mean, where are we going to park these net zero vehicles? And if it becomes net zero cars, that's a car park, isn't it? You've got to park all the cars to charge them. So you're not going to be parking them on grass or around trees. Or and what earth are you going to pull up to put all the chargers in place? It's just... It's just unconscionable that they would think that this is the right way to do things. And as for battle vehicles, it's just ridiculous.
Well, like you say, I do believe it is virtue signalling, because if you want to really tackle climate change, then you should hold other nations to account that aren't doing anything to tackle it. We can look at where we invest. Think about what happened with Tata Steel plant that closed down earlier in the year. There was a prime opportunity there for Keir Starmer when he got into power to work with Tata, who wanted to transform the plant into renewable energy over a period of years. And because it couldn't be done in the right time frame, it was just got rid of altogether. That is just anathema to me. What are you doing? We can't switch from fossil fuels to renewables overnight. We can't toss people out of jobs that have been there 30 years or just say you've got to learn this skill by whenever it is to keep doing your job. We haven't got a proper plan. We're in panic mode. That's not going to get us anywhere. If you remember before the election, Ed Miliband was meant to lead that green renewable energy, Great British Energy. Do you remember that plan?
Oh, yeah.
And then that was canned. He lost his kind of like the job that he was obviously hoping to do, and that was canned. And it's sort of like, well, if you're getting rid of that, then what are you actually meant to be doing? You got rid of that, but instead, nationalised energy that we could all have been a part of that was renewable, but instead you decided to focus on electric tanks. I'm sorry, you've got it all back to front.
It's like carbon capture. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Nikki Hodgson, pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much. She's a political commentator, hopefully defending some of that, but she's finding it indefensible, which I think a lot of people I'm struggling to do that. Well, let's welcome my panel again, broadcaster and journalist Danny Kelly and political commentator Susie Stride. Susie Stride, I'm going to come to you. OK, so we talked about EVs on the battlefield. What about the rainbow armbands?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big football fan. I support Tottenham, not there today. Hopefully they're going to beat Chelsea. And I look at this and I think my concern is, just, reading a little bit into it, I think, exactly what's been said there. I think, obviously, people have got a right to choose what sexuality they are and all of that. But I think, people also have a right to have a faith. And, if you've got Muslim players, if you've got, players of different faiths, Christian, Catholic, whatever, and if for them that impinges on their faith, well, then I don't think they should be forced to.
But why the armband in the first place as a rainbow armband? Why not a plain armband that matches your kit, that has nothing to do with anything, that nobody writes anything on anything, and they just get on with playing the game? Danny?
I'm an Everton fan, and when I go to Goodison Park, if I spend 65, 70 knicker to see the Toffees play, I don't want to be, if you like, I just want to see Everton lose. That's all I want. I want to see Everton kick a ball for 90 minutes and probably lose. I don't want to be exposed to this, and it is a political thing. It's not apolitical, it's political. And I think we're at the stage in life where gay people are just part and parcel of our fabric. I don't think, 39,000 people at Goodison Park are going to be affected by seeing players wearing the rainbow armband or the rainbow laces. And I think also the footballers won't like it. I'd love a footballer, besides this Muslim guy, the Ipswich Town captain, a Muslim guy. I'd love a Christian guy. I wonder whether Ipswich Town would have been so defensive. Because I remember Ipswich Town saying, whilst we understand the inclusivity and the rainbow this and rainbow that, we also respect this guy's faith and everything. Imagine if he was a Christian guy. I wonder whether Ipswich Town would have been so forthright in their support. Because they were caught between a rock and a hard place. Do we upset a Muslim or do we upset the gay community?
Or do we not use any of this and just
don't use it?
Don't use it. I don't understand why these politicians are obsessed, sport is obsessed with telling people about what sexuality someone is. I don't care. It's none of my business. Yeah. None of my business if someone is straight or gay or whether they're trans. It's actually none of my business. I just don't want it to be brought into things that are not relevant. Like why?
It's football.
It's football. It's a game of football. So what's what you do in the bedroom or who you fancy or where you lean to? What's that got to do with winning a football game?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, interestingly, I think there was a Christian player who did.
But he wrote "I love Jesus" on it. He didn't take his armband off, and I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
But again, I don't care what religion you are. It's football. Just play the game.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's the point for me where people can say, "Oh, it's all right for this," but then I'm like, well. Then, if we believe in that, then we have to believe that actually then everyone has to be respected and you can't respect it and then you can't then be kind of impinging on different people.
But you're not. You're playing a game of football. The rules of the game are this. It's like the rules of this debate are if you talk over me, you're out. So the rules of the game, that's the rules of the game. Everything has its certain rules. And the rules of the game are the game you play to win. And that's it. There shouldn't be all this other stuff that's coming in that has nothing to do with the sport itself. And I just find it ridiculous that people are up in arms about, you have to wear this armband, you've written this. Just get on with playing the game. Who cares?
I feel like, back in the day when I was a kid, there was a lot of, stop racism in football. And I think that was a genuine problem, and also it was a genuine problem. I'm talking about back in the 90s.
Yeah, it was a problem.
There was a genuine problem also that outplayed itself in football because you would get racism, and I used to go, you'd hear it, and a campaign like that, I think, is very different.
In some ways,
I feel like with something like this, we're starting a fire. There's no fire.
Are you talking about taking the knees?
No, taking the knee was a more recent thing.
In the 90s.
No, but I'm just wondering if you're sort of alluding to the fact that it's not there. Listen, I think there is levels of racism still in the sport.
Of course there is.
But what I think that there is it's the FA and UEFA and these organisations who could take control of that, but they don't. They allow the players to come down on the knee and take the pressure for for it. And I think that's wrong. These are big organisations that could wipe this out immediately by telling people, if you say that on the stands, you're off. We will find you. And they've got the technology to do it. They just don't. And they could. So I don't think it's not the players' responsibility. It's the FA, the UEFA, and their responsibility to make the players safe.
Watching Camilla's show this morning on GB News, and she interviewed a Newcastle United fan, a woman, who'd been banned from going to see Newcastle United because of her social media views. And this was a gay woman about transgender issues, and she was banned. And this wasn't in connection with the Newcastle United blog on social media. It was just a Geordie, a woman, a gay woman, a fan. She's got certain issues with men can't become women and women can't become men. And Newcastle United banned her because
that's just silly. Again, that's just silly. That's, she hasn't, it's true. She's right. Susie's trying. Danny Kelly, thank you very much for joining me.